Network. I'm Jeff Greer, your host and your friend. So excited to be back in the saddle this week with a great guest to kick off March. That's right, it's finally time for March Madness. Plane has been wobbling the last few months, but we are ready to land this bad boy on the runway and get through an NCAA tournament. We have been hankering for one for more than a year. It obviously did not go off as planned last year, and I think everyone is just dying to have a college basketball tournament this year to enjoy in March. And Louisville should be headed there. I think their last two wins probably confirmed that, getting themselves a big win over Duke on the road. I know Duke may or may not be an NCAA tournament team, but as far as the NCAA's selection committee and their process for picking teams, that was a vital victory for Louisville to get them a quadrant one victory they previously did not have. Now they have two great opportunities this week against Virginia Tech and Virginia. Both of those games will end up being quadrant one level games. So Louisville, great opportunity to enhance its profile. But I still think regardless of what happens, they could lose both games. Louisville should be headed to the NCAA tournament on Selection Sunday. What this does impact, obviously, is going to be seeding, and they are still very much in that group of teams, usually like 20 teams, 15 or 20 teams. Really, you could slot them anywhere and potentially be not that surprised by them improving or ruining their resume a little bit over these next 2, 3, 4 games, however many they play. Louisville should have a chance to get a quadrant one game. I'm looking at the ACC bracket. If it was today, they should be able to get another quadrant one game under their belts over in the ACC tournament. So that means there should be 3 left on their schedule. And the ACC or the NCAA tournament selection committee will continue evaluating teams throughout this whole championship week process and through this whole thing as they get ready to pick their final 68 teams and slot them into the bracket. Well, we have a very exciting guest today, and I am just saying this on a whim. I have not done any research. I think this is episode number 20 of the podcast. I think. And there's a really good chance I'm wrong here, but I'm just going to rock with it. To commemorate the 20th episode of Floyd Street's Finest, we have a big-time guest on. It's Christi Mack, the wife of head coach Chris Mack, and a dynamite basketball player in her own right, was a star at Holy Cross here in Louisville in the high school level, and then went on to reach the Dayton Athletics Hall of Fame, which is a big deal at a basketball school like Dayton, for scoring 1,200 plus points in her college career. She got into college coaching. She coached high school basketball before ultimately saddling up, raising the Mack family. They've got 3 kids, and she always is fun to talk to about college basketball and basketball in general. So I'm thrilled to have her on. Before we do that, I got to tell you, I got 3 house cleaning items for you. And if you want to skip over these, do your thing, but don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. 1, find the Field of 68 on YouTube. We've got all sorts of videos. We're rolling out this really fun March Madness series, greatest moments in March Madness. Go subscribe to it. You can watch all sorts of different videos. You'll see clips from interviews, everything you could possibly want from a podcast network that also does video in one place. Also, if you are a fan of this podcast, Floyd Street's Finest, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, any other platform, if there is a rate and review system, do me a favor and go ahead and rate us. If you hate it, that's fine. If you love it, that's even better. Just leave a rating and leave a review too if you feel so kind to mention. There have been a few people who have taken liberties and said I'm handsome, which I appreciate. I will have make sure that I give my family nice gifts at Christmas time for those comments. We'll get back to the show in a minute, but first, let me tell you about our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. With March Madness beating down our door, DraftKings is the best way for you to get a little action in on the game. If you have not downloaded the DraftKings Sportsbook app yet, what are you waiting for? Seriously, it's the safest, most secure, reliable app, and it allows you to safely deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. And this week, they are offering my listeners a pretty sweet deal. If you sign up now with the promo code FIELD68, you can turn $1 into $100 if one of the main event fighters in UFC 259 this weekend lands a single punch. That's it. One punch to turn $1 into $100. And don't worry, if MMA is not your thing, DraftKings Sportsbook offers odds and promos on basketball, hockey, or whatever sport you are watching. But since they're basically giving away $100, you might as well sign up now. Watch a little UFC and remember to use promo code FIELD68. That's FIELD68, FIELD 68, all caps. You must be 21 years or older. Offer available only for a limited time. Eligibility restrictions apply. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER, GAMBLER, for more information. So thank you so much for listening to the Floyd Street's Finest Louisville Basketball Podcast. Again, rate and review things if you can, and enjoy my conversation with Christi Mack. We are now joined by the famous Christi Mack, the best basketball player in the Mack family. Christi, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely. The biggest thing is the running joke was, I don't know how much this reached you before you guys came here, but in the run up to when Chris got hired at Louisville, the whole conversation always started with, well, you know, his wife is from Louisville. That was always how this whole thing started. So I feel like we've got to give proper attribution to the true legend in Louisville that brought Chris Mack to the Cardinals.
Right. Well, you know what? I'd like to take a lot of credit for that, but being that I hadn't been here in about 20 years prior, I left pretty much right out of high school to play at the University of Dayton and really never came back home. I came back home for a short period of time to work at Holy Cross and coach there, but really it was a brief stay, probably less than a year, and I was back in Ohio. So I feel like I've lived half of my life in Louisville, Kentucky, and then half in obviously Cincinnati, Ohio. So I appreciate the credit, but I don't quite really think I should take all that.
Well, I am curious. Take us through your basketball career. Like, you obviously were a very talented player. You're in the Hall of Fame at Dayton with, I think I had it written down somewhere, like 1,200 plus career points. I know you got into coaching too. So I guess first and foremost, where did the love of basketball come from for you? And I guess, how did you develop that love over the years?
Honestly, Jeff, I think for me, when I look back, the thing I remember most is that my parents allowed me to enjoy basketball. You know, they really didn't push me. They allowed me to play multiple sports, which I think is so important when kids are young, and it's getting harder and harder with kids nowadays with the commitment. But I just really appreciated that they took me to, whether it was volleyball, basketball, softball. I did track and field for a year or two. And I also, which a lot of people don't know, I took dance for 14 years. Oh, and I did it all the way until I left for college. And dance was a really important part of my life. I mean, I really thought it, you know, worked with my coordination, my balance, my timing on things. It really probably contributed more to my athleticism than my sports did. And I was just really grateful for the opportunity to be able to do multiple sports. When I got to about my junior year of high school, that's when I knew that, okay, I've gotten better at basketball. Mm-hmm. And at the time, volleyball, which I probably might have been better at volleyball, but it wasn't as fast paced as it is now. You know, you could only score on offense. You could block serves. I mean, there were other different things, but the rules have changed so much that the game has really become more exciting now, which is why I love watching my girls play. But it just wasn't as just basketball was my route to get my education paid for in college. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate to play around some really good athletes at the time at Holy Cross. I had quite a few teammates that went on to play at Bellarmine, went on to play volleyball at Ole Miss, and other schools, other Division I programs. And really, I was fortunate to be surrounded by not just good people, but great athletes, and that really challenged me and helped me with that drive and my love for the game of basketball.
That's something that a lot of coaches talk about, and I'm sure you experienced this from your coaching days too, of players who played other sports and did other athletic things like dance or gymnastics or things that might help you. Like soccer players always are complimented for having good footwork in basketball because they're so used to using their feet, obviously. So that makes a lot of sense. But no, I did not know that. So 14 years you were in, what kind of dance were you doing?
Oh, I did tap, jazz, ballet, took gymnastics. And actually at the time, I cannot remember his name because it has been years ago, but my gymnastics teacher at Kathy Todd Dance Studio was on the Ladybirds.
Oh, okay.
He did something with that, some affiliation with that, which, as you can imagine, being a dance studio in Louisville, they're going to try to snag whatever help they can from anything at the University of Louisville.
Absolutely.
Just because of their success. But yeah, it was something that I'm truly grateful for. I'm still in contact. I've reconnected with my dance teacher for all those years. And really for me, the value that I see in playing multiple sports is that it allows your body to use different muscles. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it did for me. It allowed me to rest certain body parts and then improve other areas, and while giving those others a break. So that's the value I see in playing different sports, just being able to mentally step away from one sport so that you can maybe appreciate it more, when you return to it.
Absolutely. Well, I have to tell you, I'm still mad about this. My wife and I got like a 5-package dancing lesson before our reception. And we went through the whole thing. Of course, we paid for all of the lessons. I learned how to lead. I think we did the foxtrot, and there were like 2 others that we learned. And then a week before the reception, the band told us they didn't know how to play the song that we had requested. And so we had this whole choreographed dance to this song. And then they were like, well, we could put it on the iPod and play it on the iPod. And we're like, who's going to do that when you have a band at your wedding? So we scrapped the whole thing. So I've got all these dance moves. I have nowhere to show them off. I guess I should maybe make some videos or something, make some.
I was going to say, now that you've brought it up, I think people are going to want to see videos of that. I need a little proof, because I'm going to tell you, one guy I know that would not take dance lessons would be my husband.
Oh man. So
I'm impressed.
It was hard. It was hard like that. And that's one of those sacrifices, I guess, you make for wedding stuff.
Right.
I guess I had to learn. So something that I find really fascinating about your particular relationship is because of that basketball experience. And I know you, like you said, you coached high school basketball, you got involved at the college level too. How different is that for you watching games? Not just as Chris's wife and the mother of his children and having so much emotional attachment in that regard for any team that he's coaching, but also knowing basketball the way you do, and obviously probably still having a little bit of that competitive fire to you. I'm sure everyone has seen some Christi Mack reactions over the years in the stands, but how do you consider your approach to watching basketball games? What is that like for you?
Yeah, Jeff, you know what's funny? I don't know that anyone's ever asked me that, to be able to tell the difference. I'll tell you this, it was much easier being a player than it is being a spectator and the wife of the coach. And, some people will understand this, those who've played will, but I had more control when I was the player. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was a very calming presence on the basketball court. I felt like my teammates trusted me a lot. They knew I wanted the ball in my hands, especially at the end of the game. And I felt like I made others around me better. That's probably one of the biggest compliments I ever got as a basketball player, was that, I made others feel more comfortable on the floor. And you don't get that feeling when you're in the stands. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say all the preparation that I see Chris do, whether it's watching film, practices, countless hours of recruiting, all that stuff, you do get a sense of behind the scenes of understanding the effort and the training and the practice that goes into that moment on the court. But you still have a feeling as a fan, as a wife, that you have no control over it. Mm-hmm. I always trust that Chris is prepared because I see it every day. I'm always blown away by the hours that he puts in watching film. And so I trust and know that he's prepared and he knows what he's doing. It's just, I'm not out there to be the one to do it. And that for me has always been the hardest part, about being a fan, and just feeling that sense of, our girls are getting older. They're 15 and 14, but for the longest time they felt it too. When dad's team would lose or heartbreak 3 at the buzzer, whatever, we live and breathe that. Mm-hmm. And it's because we do sacrifice. We physically see and feel those sacrifices when he can't go to dinner with us or can't go watch them play because he's got to prepare. And so the girls have gotten better at understanding that, you turn the page, tomorrow's a new day, we have another game. And really COVID has taught us a lot about that. Having to see Chris go through so many pauses, guys being injured, it's just really been a year of uncertainty and gratefulness at the same time. And so I think, to go back to your initial question, that I liked the me more when I was a player because I felt like I was more in control and I handled it better. You get caught up in the emotions as a fan. And so I get it when I hear people screaming stuff at them. I get it. I understand. But it's hard. Everyone wants their team to win. Mm-hmm. I think I have a different view of it when I know what's gone into it, and a little bit more maybe respect for it and understanding.
Yeah. And that's something that I think, it's people like me, it's our jobs to try to show people how much goes into it. And I think by and large, a lot of people understand the hours and stuff. You hear the stories, and this is a bad example, but Urban Meyer texting recruits while he was sitting in church, and him saying this is when I knew I had to step back for a little bit, just I couldn't go to church for an hour. I know Chris has done a pretty good job of drawing the boundaries of when he's with family and when he's doing stuff, but it's tough. It's tough, and it's a lot of work. And the assistants too, everybody's just constantly looking at film. I sat in a terminal in Tallahassee the day after a Florida State loss 2 seasons ago with Luke Murray. And we were delayed there for 8 hours, and Luke just had his laptop there and was just watching film the whole time. And we were talking, but that's just what this is all about, is these guys just pour so much time into it. That was something I wanted to ask you about as well, as you mentioned, you hear fans shouting and stuff, especially when you're able to actually go to games. How have you experienced the media side of it and the social media stuff? And this is, I know Xavier Cincinnati is a big rivalry, so I'm not disparaging this at all, but Kentucky Louisville is seemingly on a whole other planet as far as what that experience is like. So how do you deal with that side of this whole experience?
It's hard. You quickly learn that people's opinions can suddenly become facts, or at least people think they are. And you have to, I'm constantly reminding myself that to have thick skin. Fortunately, I have a good core family, and I have a good core group of girlfriends that, they're my constant reminders that there is life outside of the basketball world that I live in. And to be quite honest, Jeff, like there's been a lot of things that's happened, over the past year or two that I'm able to use as learning experiences for my kids because they are teenagers. And though they don't have Twitter and they don't have Facebook, we're pretty strict on some of those things, but we're constantly reminding them and using things as examples like, hey, this is what you'll see if you have those things. This is what people do say about your dad after a loss. They're just angry. They're fans. Like they're just words. You have to be able, and it's hard. I mean, I would be lying if I said it wasn't. I would say 80% of the time I can just blow it off. But there is a small portion of the time that I think people, it's sad, but the world we live in, there are a lot of people that like to see others not succeed. And that has probably been the biggest eye-opening thing for me. And I never felt that as a player. And, like I came out of high school with Jeff Walls' sister, Jamie Walls, Kyra Elsie, who's now the coach at UK. She played at Tennessee. Jamie Britt, who went on to play at Western Kentucky with Jamie Walls. I mean, we had a really good class. And I just remember all of us being super supportive of each other at our own respective schools. And when we got to play on an all-star team, man, it was on. We loved it. And I hope that's the case now still, with high school kids and college kids, because I do see, as much as fans like the rivalry and all this, I mean, the kids themselves that play in it, they love it. I mean, they all know what each other does to work for that. And shoot, in the summertime, they're working out with each other. They're playing open gym with each other. And I just think that sometimes fans and even media can get caught up in it. And it is what it is. It's hard, but then you wake up the next day and it's like amazing. A win can take all that away. I always say, okay, forget the next win. Everybody forgets about all that stuff. And then you move on from there. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. What about, I have to ask, I mean, you guys, with Chris, I mean, I thought he dealt with the video as well as he could, like just said like, look, I messed up for COVID stuff. And I think a lot of Louisville fans probably actually enjoyed at least the rivalry banter side of it. But like the rivalry touched you with Facebook like last summer. Like, how do you guys approach those conversations with your family and navigate that? Do you just block everything out for a few days, or how is that? What's that actual approach like?
No, I mean, it goes back to the point that I just said. Like I think people are out to, try to find negativity about you, to want you not to succeed. And, sometimes you have to, the only way to get through it is to laugh. You kind of like, I mean, I tweeted a picture on Sunday as I'm walking out to church at 10:40 of Chris watching the bass tournament. And on the bottom line, it happened to be the Kentucky, Florida. Now, no offense, but if anyone thinks I have that much time to really search the bottom line, I mean, and I mean this in all like truth. I didn't even know Kentucky, who they played the night before. Maybe that makes me a bad Louisville fan. I didn't. I had no idea. I get to church and I'm sitting next to Haley, and Haley goes, "Mom, your phone is vibrating." I'm getting all these like text notifications. Like I'm thinking all I did was text a picture of Chris and Braden having donuts. And then like, sure enough, someone zoomed in, bottom line is the Kentucky, Florida score. And it's like, I mean, I can laugh about it, but it's like, if someone thinks that I have that much time on my hands that I really set out to send out that picture, it's almost sad to me that, like someone found that. And so I kind of felt that way about the video. It is what it is. we do have our small core group. What I'll tell you is our kids go to school. Our girls play club volleyball. Mm-hmm. Do they wear a mask? Yes, they do. That's the rule. I mean, Kiva, they're one of very few programs when we're going to tournaments that they are wearing a mask while they play, mm-hmm. while they are on the court playing. And, we're doing the best we can with all the protocols, and I certainly feel like we take it serious. I mean, for the longest time, it was like I was threatening the kids. No, you're not having sleepovers. No, you're not going to this so-and-so's house. If we give it to Dad, I will never hear the end of it, kind of thing. And so no. I feel like we were being extra careful.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. That's certainly, that video is not what caused Chris to ultimately get COVID, as he got it, 5 or 6 weeks later, mm-hmm. From someone on the team or whatever. But, it is what it is. Like I said, you just got to use them as learning experiences. I don't know what else to say. It's like, as soon as you get over one, Jeff, there's another one, mm-hmm. It's the world we live in. And so, I mean, we're not perfect.
Yeah. And I would think, like, at some point you just kind of get used to it. I mean, it's so bizarre, but it is, the media environment in cities that don't have pro teams is very different. And the pro teams in cities like Boston and New York, the microscope for the Celtics or the Knicks or the Rangers or the Yankees, is hot. I mean, that's what they're under the spotlight. And in Louisville, there's Louisville and there's Kentucky, and to a lesser extent, Indiana, that people are following really closely. And every last morsel is dissected. I remember I was so excited. It was weird. It was a personal, I guess, feather in my cap. I was so excited. I went on the Dan Patrick show, and unfortunately it was to talk about one of the scandals before you guys got here. So it was not exactly the cheeriest subject,
right?
But I was excited to go on the Dan Patrick show. It's Dan Patrick. And I said something. I was trying to couch my words. I was trying to be very careful to say, that's not what my reporting said. And somebody told somebody that I had said something else, that so-and-so was definitely innocent or something like that. And my phone was the same way. Like, it was just blowing up. Like I had gone on to a national radio station, a radio show, and defended someone who was perceived to not be worth defending. And it was insane. Like, the reaction was just insane. And that just shows you what this market is like. And there's heightened tension at all times. I mean, it just never goes away. And having moved here now almost 8 years ago, that's probably the biggest takeaway I've had so far, is that you are never not in rivalry mode. Like, there's just not ever, you don't get any break. And I don't see how some people do it. I mean, it's got to be just absolutely exhausting.
Well, and there are some positives, a lot of positives to that. I mean, it's a great selling point when you're recruiting athletes.
Definitely.
You are the show here.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to a city where you are it? And not necessarily for a coach's wife, like, it's not about me, but for those players, there are positives. And so I will tell you, when I woke up this morning and I was getting dressed, I put this purple Adidas pullover on, and I actually got on ESPN app and searched what games were tonight to make sure no one was playing a team with purple, so that wouldn't be I'm like, this is really pathetic, Christy, that you're doing this, but I just, would like to avoid it when I can.
Well, and in full transparency, when I worked for the Courier Journal and the Athletic, and I would go to Louisville games, I have like 4 or 5, I think, red colored sweaters and shirts and stuff, and I never wear them now because I don't want people to think that I'm biased, that I'm a Louisville fan.
Yeah, I get it.
It's crazy. So there are a couple other things I wanted to get to before I let you go, and I really appreciate you chatting with me here. But one is, the first year that you guys were here, I spent the day kind of following Louisville, getting ready for, I forgot who they were playing. for their season opener and Chris's first game as the head coach. And I remember calling you and just being like, hey, what's your game day routine like? And you guys were still looking for a breakfast spot. You were still trying to figure that part out. But that was a big thing for you, is making sure you had breakfast on game day. Is that still a routine? And I guess I realize with the pandemic, you're probably eating at home a lot more. But before the pandemic, had you found a place that you guys like to go for? You don't have to give the location, but had you found that routine a little bit more comfortably in year number 2?
We had found a breakfast spot in Norton Commons, and it has since closed because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, as we all have been saying, COVID has changed a lot. For us, we shut down eating breakfast before games. But we have other things, it's well documented. We like to go to Roosters afterwards. They have a nice little area for us. Our numbers are much smaller, where it's usually only 5 or 6 of us after a game. And it doesn't always happen after every game. And we've had less family that's been able to come in, just because of COVID and tickets and, how many fans were allowed, all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to when we can get back to a more normal. But as many negative things that have come out of COVID, for us, I feel like for our family, a lot of positives came out of it. We got a lot of time with Chris, that probably too much time. But, as our kids are getting older, Lainey will be going off to college in a couple years. And you start to realize that, that's time you'll never get back. And so I think we appreciate and are more grateful for the time that we were able to spend together here at home. And Chris and I started cooking a lot more. He actually really enjoys cooking. He finds a lot of recipes on the internet, on TikTok. He is, he's always been good on the grill, but, he's making things like smash burgers and cheesesteaks and just a bunch of stuff that he has found on TikTok. So we have got to spend more quality family time around the dinner table. And so that's been enjoyable for us.
Yeah, I remember Jeff Walls was talking about that too. Like he was able to do a lot more, like drive his kids places and do things that otherwise he would have been at the office. And that is a big plus. Do you have a sense that you'll get back to that day of game routine once things are normal again? Like, is the breakfast back on the table? Is you got to go back to what you were doing, or do you feel like you have something new that you want to conjure up?
No, we will for sure go back to it. I think that's really the only time that Chris and I get, together. Our girls are staying up a little bit later than they used to, when they were younger and everybody was in bed by 9. A lot of times that 9 to 12 window was our time to, connect. And a lot of times it would be in front of a TV watching film or whatever. But I would think Chris would say the same thing, that we really enjoy those mornings, game day breakfast. I usually get a scouting report on the other team. And we can kind of catch up on the week, knowing what the girls have as far as, their sports and stuff like that. So I look forward to getting that back.
What about dressing him? This has to be the best year for him, that he does not have to wear suits. I know he doesn't like wearing suits. I still remember that you and I joked after that same story. You texted me afterwards and said, make sure you mention that I do not dress him. He picks his pants out. He's wearing those Tracy McGrady draft day baggy pants because he likes to have room to coach in them. But this year, everybody agreed, hey, let's wear polo shirts, track jackets, whatever it is, like sweatpants, runners, whatever you want to wear. And I got to think, and he's not alone in this, but among coaches, but I got to think if he's allowed to stay in that lane, that he's gonna keep rolling that way.
Yeah, he's going to jump all over that if he can continue wearing that. And honestly, it probably looks more like slimming and fitting on him than his suits did. So he's just, like I've told you before, He is pretty low maintenance. He is, I cannot remember the last time he went shopping for clothes. He's a pretty simple guy, and he probably would say the same about me. I think that's why we get along so well.
Mm-hmm.
But I like seeing him in suits, so I wouldn't be opposed to them going back to that. But I'm sure, like most things, he'll do whatever he's told to do. He'll wear whatever he's told to wear. I think whatever, he never leaves here. At least when he was packing up this morning, for their away game, he didn't have clothes for the game. I think Matt Stebbins, their equipment guy, gives them their entire outfit for the game.
Wow.
Like, I think he brings it all. So Chris probably feels like this is fantastic. He may vote never to change because he doesn't even pack his clothes for this. So he has
great.
like a backpack on a road trip.
Wow, that's nice. That's a game changer for sure. How do you do March? Like, how does your family, not Chris, Chris obviously will be included in this, but he's probably gone so much during March
Right.
because you're really like, that's the time to dig in. But how do you guys do March?
Well, typically I've gone, I'll go to the conference tournament and then NCAA tournament. Everything is so last minute these days, and they can change on a daily basis. So I think we've all learned to kind of go with the flow. Our girls are getting more in the thick of club volleyball, and they're playing at a much higher level to where they cannot miss. When they were younger, we would pull them out of stuff, and, schools would be certainly very understanding of that. With COVID, you can't do that. I mean, I think a lot of schools, you have to quarantine when you come back, from out of town. So for us, this March will look a lot different. I think we'll be watching a lot of it on TV. In fact, I believe my girls have a volleyball tournament. It may be local. It's either here or Indianapolis, the weekend of the ACC tournament. So I'm just going day by day. I go where I'm told to go, where my calendar tells me to go. I catch the games, especially certainly away games. I catch them when I can, on the TV, or we'll sit at home on the couch as a family of four and cheer Dad on. So.
Yeah, people love the videos, like the one from the other night. People love that kind of stuff. So that always goes a long way. And I'm sure it's even harder to watch at home. I mean, it's already difficult to watch in the arena, and it's probably even more difficult at home because you don't have the feel of the gym. And I still go back to when I visited Mount Notre Dame a couple of years ago and saw it's now a library, but the old court where Chris coached. And it just reminded me of what it was like to play like CYO basketball or high school level at the smaller schools. And just that environment, you can never replicate being in a gym for a basketball game, like especially in those little bandboxes. And I know the Yum Center is not a bandbox, but so it's just got to be so weird to be sitting at home watching instead of having the energy of the arena.
Yeah, I would certainly much rather be there, but this year has been totally different. I mean, even with the small crowd that we're allowed at Yum Center, I mean, Chris says it's so weird to go, like, for instance, Duke, and literally like Coach K's wife's in the stands and maybe two other people.
Yeah.
And he said, it's
so
just,
bizarre.
it's bizarre. You feel bad for the kids because, I mean, you want a kid like Carleek Jones to be able to walk in there and feel like the floor vibrate. If you've ever been there, like you feel your seat vibrate the whole time. And, the Yum, how loud the Yum gets, when we're making a run or somebody hits a big three. I was like cringing, waiting for that first time at the Yum Center when a player would raise his hands to the crowd. And it was like melted you, like made you stand up, like everybody get up. I know there's only 3,000 of us, but stand up. The kid's asking us to stand up. So, I just pray that we can, get back to what it used to be, just for the sake of these kids, because they are sacrificing a lot too. And I hope fans and people realize that what they're providing for our entertainment value the sacrifices that they're making. You know, I mean, Chris sat down in our basement for 10 days. Luckily, we had to leave out of town to go to a volleyball tournament. So he got to see the light, so to speak, for 2 days of his 2 or 3 days of his quarantine. But for 10 days, he was strictly in the basement where there's no windows. And I said to him, can you imagine how your players have felt being in a small dorm room in a small space? And they've had it multiple times where guys have been in quarantine like that. And it's just, I mean, again, it is what it is, but it's like the sacrifices that they've had to make. Even when they didn't have COVID, they were just in quarantine. And, you know, it's hopefully we can be more grateful and appreciative of what they've done. And this goes for every team, because every team's been through it. Every team has had their different adversities this year. So,
yeah, it's been, that's something that I think has, some people get and some people don't, it just doesn't click for them, but it's that mental and emotional health aspect of it. In addition to the actual health of I had COVID in December. And luckily it was asymptomatic. Well, not entirely. I had like a dull headache, but just like staying home and you get stir crazy. You know me, I'm a social guy. I like saying hello to people. I like going out, and it's been really difficult. So I can't imagine it for being an 18, 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid, and you're at college and you're playing college basketball at the highest level, to not have the full experience. I was talking with people about this last night. To not have that full experience has to be so taxing on the emotional and mental health of these guys across the country, guys and gals. And certainly feel for them. So hopefully we can give them a March that they'll remember, and we'll be able to enjoy some great college basketball.
Yeah.
Well, Christi, thank you so much for doing this. Jeff Goodman said, you got to have Christi on. And I said, of course I got to have Christi on. And he said, if she doesn't want to do it when you first asked, say Goodman says she has to do it. And I was like, Jeff, don't worry. Christi will say yes. She will come on and chat, of course. But he did want to make sure that I mentioned that to you, that he was
awesome.
He was going to spur you on if I had not been able to convince you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you. Me. So
of course. Well, thank you so much, and enjoy March. This is the weirdest March probably that we'll ever see. So take
better than last March so far. So
yes,
we'll take.
Yeah, so true. So true. All right. Well, Christi Mack, thank you so much for joining Floyd Street's Finest, and best of luck in March.
Thanks, Jeff. Good seeing you.